Good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Meyer, and today we're going to do some student feedback. But first, I have to say, the very best thing that any instructor or educator can have is enthusiastic students. So you guys are awesome. I really appreciate you showing up in the mornings here, ready to go, enthusiastic. It just makes everything better. The environment, the teaching, the community. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Beautiful Miss Cindy Myers here. All right, so this morning we're going to be looking at, I guess it is an animal day. We're going to be looking at a chimp, but I'm going to be talking about skin tones in particular. And if there's some time, I know Susan, you've been wanting to talk about fur. We'll see if we can get into a little bit of that. And then we're going to look to some horses out in the mountains and see if we can't push that painting along for Janny. Give her some ideas to work with. So first, for those of you that are new or just popping by, we'll let you know the schedule for the week is mornings at 8 a.m., morning jump start, what you're watching right now, student feedback. And then at 8 p.m. we'll have Masterworks. There's no afternoon program this week. We may do one or two shows at the end of the week if we get everything together. But we're building our programs and getting everything ready for next year. So we'll keep you updated as that goes. And of course, we've got Sketchbook Live on Facebook, Meyer Studio page. Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night at 6:55. We do 20 minutes of sketching together. We encourage you to bring your supplies. I work in charcoal. Work with whatever you want. You can take it as a lesson and get an education or just something fun to do by yourself or with your pod. So, I'm feeling the pressure, feeling the heat. Susan's putting the heat on me. Here we go. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what other announcements we've got. I think we've got it all. So shall we get to work? As always, if you appreciate what's happening here, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We do very much appreciate it. And I always do my very best to give you your money's worth, more than your money's worth. All right, let's see if we can get the iPad involved here and get sketching. 3 minutes of talking's enough, don't you think? Don't you think? All right. So look at this handsome fellow. You know, something's this good looking. It's hard to work on. It's hard to work on. So, skin is a funny kind of element. And let's see. Let's back up here just 1 second. Let's back up here just a second. Let's take this off. Let's give us a gray background. A gray background. Yeah, she does so wonderful with her animals. So wonderful. Okay, I know you got, well, if you're new, you may not be familiar, but the rest of you guys are very familiar with this. But we're just going to use this to talk about a concept right now. And all we're going to do is, I'm drawing the shadow as of a sphere. All right, and of course we've got the cast shadow. And then we need background. Okay, so we'll get the background in there. Put the white out of that background so nothing's pulling your eye away from the center. Okay, we'll take our eraser, clean that up a bit. We'll take our air, soften this edge, open up the thing, and we want to make sure that's all soft. Okay, so where to start? Oops, did our background not go dark enough? Oh, we didn't. Okay, here we go. So we should have started on that. I thought that's where we were starting. We're good. So let's go to eraser. Get a little bit of this out. Get a little bit of that out. Okay, so here we have is a basic sphere. And what I'd like to propose to you, that's so much more than color. The nature of the marks, and in particular the nature of the highlight, tells us about the surface. Tells about the surface. Yeah, everybody's loving your painting, Susan. Look at that. Love the smile of the eye. Going good. So now when we come in to get our highlight going, we can see it. Okay, so if I come in with a highlight like such, and this edge here, I don't know if you can see that, but what I'm doing is I'm coming back and I'm basically making this a harder edge, a cleaner edge. Okay, that value's slightly darker. We didn't really intend that, but just for the sake of time, we're gonna keep going. Now I'm over at the shadow edge and I'm doing the same thing. Right? So in other words, I'm paying particular attention to the nature of those edges. Okay? So edges are one thing we want to think about. And the other thing we want to think about is the highlight. Okay? Now those two things are going to tell us a lot. Like, well, what can they tell us? Well, if we have a very hard edge, okay, it all takes time. It takes a little time, so I'm just cleaning things up here a little bit. Cleaning things up a little bit so that edges and other things aren't distracting from my point. Make this thing feel full, not hollow. Soft edges as it turns into the shadow. Okay, I know it just seems like I'm doing a bunch of nothing here, but I'm really demonstrating that the nature, the way you put down this paint really matters. And if you want to get fur or if you want to get skin, you've got to really pay attention to that. Now let's continue with this theme down here to the cast shadow. And what if on this cast shadow, again, we went super clean, hard edged. So again, I'm with my eraser now. And see how I'm just getting that edge super sharp there. Okay, let's see what happened. Okay, are you with me so far? Now, let's look at the difference between a highlight like that, right? So what that's telling you is it's telling you about the surface that the light is landing on versus right, that's going to indicate a much harder surface with a much cleaner reflection of the light source, like metal or something like that. Right, that could be a window. Okay, so that highlight says hard surface, and so do the edges. Now, that's no longer as hard, is it? There we go. Okay, good. Good, Susan. Okay, so that nature of the highlight, let's go back here. So if you think of a ball bearing, right, which might have a very hard boom ding highlight versus a peach, right? A peach, because why a peach? It's got all the little hairs on it, all the little fuzz. Then what you'd get in there wouldn't be nearly so geometric. It's not going to reflect off like a mirror like hard metal. And so a peach might look a little bit more like that. Now, why does that not look like a peach? Well, because of these edges. Right, is this looking a little more peach edge where there's some fuzz where you can hang off of it? It's not looking metal, it's not looking Tupperware anymore. Right, molded plastic. Okay, so now that's completely different. And again, just like going back into space, what if we did that with everything? right? So much, much different. So this peach here has got let's just say this peach was crossbred with a Rastafarian. How about that? Right, and so those hairs, little fuzz gets longer. And then again, the hair doesn't have those hard edges. So all I'm doing now is softening some edge like that. So Susan, I don't know if you guys knew this, but she is an author herself. And Izzy got some educational books from her for Christmas. So I feel like she took away all these crazy animals we made up in our imagination and showed us that some of those were real. So I took that as a direct challenge to my imagination. So today, that's why we're having a Rastafarian peach. And I triple dare you, Susan, to show me something like that in the real world. And I know you're going to come back with it, and then I'm going to have to step up my game. But it'll be a fun game anyway. So again, what we're going to do is soften some of that up. Maybe not all of it, you know, maybe an edge catches here and there. But it's not really hard edged like a metal ball or bar bearing. Uh-oh. Well, let's start with the good news before I got myself in trouble. You're welcome. So at this point, the demo's going good. All right. And then a little later, I keep running my mouth and bang, look what I get. Oh my gosh. And then, yeah, everybody's just encouraging the fight. So, well, we'll see where this takes us. We'll see where it takes us. You guys are funny. So, but look, we've got this Rastafarian peach here. Right? Got some of those long fuzzes going and everything. But what if that's just a form laying on his Rastafarian body? Well, then that means, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, it means we've got to come back and fix the shadow. It's a cast shadow laying on top of a surface. So in other words, the exact shapes and edges of shadow, of light, and all of that, along with the highlight, are really describing the surface of things. And when you're talking about skin or fur or plastic or metal or stone, part of what we're talking about is the surface of it. Okay? All right. So with that in mind, you guys don't like to keep things simple. You want to talk about surface and then throw skin on top of it. Okay, so this is part of the challenge here, is now we've got skin meeting hair. But not only that, the challenging thing about skin is, right, skin, without, I guess this is being a little disgusting, but if we thought we could just cut it off of us, right, we could kind of pile it up. Right? It's a soft, stretchable material, in other words. So why is skin hard to do? Well, because sometimes, this is going to be a really bad, but sometimes there's hard bone, like a skeleton, right? that skin is stretched tight over. Right? And then sometimes there's muscle underneath the skin, on top of the bone and underneath the skin. And so in that case, you're seeing skin stretched over muscle. And then in still another case, sometimes there's pockets of fat. And skin will drape over that differently. And so what happens is the tautness of the skin is one of the things that you're portraying, and on top of that skin is a semi-transparent material. Semi-transparent material. Jason, what in the heck are you talking about? You've lost your freaking mind. You guys give me a second. I just so happen to have a very fancy phone here, and this fancy phone has a fancy flashlight on it. And I'm going to turn that flashlight up. And now if I was in a dark room, or right there, you can see that red glow. Can you? I know it's a little bit tough, right? That light is shining through my skin. So the skin look, depending, is it pulled over cartilage, right? Is it pulled over bone? Is it hanging on muscle and fat? That, my friends, is one of the things that makes skin so difficult. Okay? Is you're trying to paint the quality of the surface, and this is a semi-transparent material, and it's stretched on top of other material with different things underneath it. Okay? When it's on top of bone, there's not going to be as much color. When you have muscle and fat and blood vessels, there's going to be more color. As you get back into bone, right? How might the highlight change from here to here? All right. So, good talk, Jason. Now show me what to do in the painting. Oh my goodness, you guys. So considering that now, how might we change this edge? Let's see. You guys might want to see what I'm talking about, huh? You're a needy group. All right, here we go. We're on the same page. Uh-oh, she's up in the thing. So she always told her students there wasn't anything they could make up that wasn't already in nature. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a direct challenge. All right, I'll turn my imagination on, Izzy and I, and we'll see what we can do. All right, there's a very helpful insight, skin over bone. Yeah, that kind of boom blew my mind too when I first heard that. To Susan's point, there's nothing you could make up. I remember in philosophy class, I think it was a middle-aged philosopher, Ansel, if I remember right, had the argument about God. And God, I believe it was the greatest thing or the most magnificent thing basically that you could think of, right? If you could think of anything, that was God. And then somebody says, well, you know what? I can think. And that's imaginary. So you're saying God's imaginary. And he says, well, you know what's even more powerful than that? That rather than it being imaginary, boom, that it's real. and that takes it a step up. So yeah, science and art, they belong together because they're both part of the beauty. They're just approaching the mountain from two different sides. I think this is one of the most valuable lessons yet. All right, thank you, Susan. It's a little bit advanced, and it doesn't come with answers necessarily, but hopefully it starts you looking a little differently. So what do we have here? If we call this skin tone, which should be a little bit of basically cool black because it's in shadow or hair, then what I'm going to do here, and this may be too much, I'm not going to fall, but I'm going to make sure that some of my edge here, and you have a little bit of it, but we're going to just get it slightly more pronounced. And now you've got to be careful that you're not a fence builder, right? Because if you just start doing that, that's not helping anything. We go in and out. And we just want to give that feeling. And again, what we don't want is like that. Right? And if you, so just smudge it out a little bit. Right? Careful that those edges aren't necessarily razor sharp. And look, I think that just that one thing helps tremendously. Okay, so that edge there. So there's one other element that I think, rather than working on this, that I want to talk about, and then we can come back and demo, Susan. But what it is basically this area is monotone. And how that can get you into trouble is, what happens is, if you'll remember that the flatter the surface, the stronger it carries. Well, kind of the flatter and more monochromatic these things are, the harder they begin to look. And when I say the harder they look, I'm talking about surfaces. You could think of Tupperware, right? A molded plastic, metal. Those all will have stretched and little harder edges. And so what we have to do is we have to have some of our non-color. And in this case, that would be your background. See where this is. And so what we've got to do, in with some of this, we've got to break up that red with a little bit of the non-color. Right, and we can do, let's do it there. I'm trying to find that non-color at more of that value. All right, and I missed, right? But again, if I rub it in a little bit, and it's very, very subtle, but what you're going to see is what would you're actually going to look like on your palette is you're just not going to touch it quite so hard. So by me turning the opacity down, you see as I go over that, there's just a little, it's almost like a glaze. So what I want you to watch now is I'm just going to add a little bit of this here and there, and let's see what that does to the look of this thing. Okay, so this is a good question here. Would you want the non-color to be more of a cool or a warm? So just think about that for a minute. Okay, when we're thinking about color, what are we wanting from that word? What does that word mean to us? And especially when you think about it in terms of non-color. if you've got color and you have non-color. Color does this, goes away from you, or does color come towards you? When you think of non-color, is that something that's going to be attractive, go to you? The bees and the birds flying in the sky, are they going to see non-color and be drawn to non-color? Or are animals, including us, attracted to the color that evolution has developed, boom, from the flowers to say, hey, there's food here, this is pretty, come get it. Advances non-color, brown, gray, death, decay, right? Generally speaking, we're not necessarily wanting to eat brown looking food or grayish food, right? I mean, if you just think on those terms, it all makes so much sense. No, so you can get it, but generally speaking, what you want is like here, you can see the non-color over his shoulder. We're coming back, don't worry. So this would be color, right? Our orange, yellow, and this is non-color, this gray-green. And what we want is we want the color to come forward. In other words, we want everybody seeing this chimpanzee as this warm skin tone. But we're going to use the non-color, the going away color, to keep this skin tone from looking plastic. Right? So it's almost a way of thinking of poking holes into it. Can you see how there's little bits of color? Well, let's send it to Procreate and do the whole job on it. But look at this for a second. Part of the reason this reads as skin isn't because it's all nice and smooth and silky. It's because those color spots aren't too big or wide and don't carry too strong. Yet they carry strong enough to give you the form of the painting. Okay, so in other words, we see corners, we see shadows, and we see air. You know, but even within that, on top of this plane that's going this direction, right? Facing up there, you see those are the changes I'm talking about right now. And the reason you need that is, if we just take his own color right here, it doesn't take very long to ruin this painting. By those spots, this little spot, right? Most of us do this. Right, so let's just do this on a little bitty area of a Rembrandt and see if that Rembrandt stays a Rembrandt. You know, you can kind of sneak it in there, but how long on one, how long? Okay, so that's our color, so let's make sure to get our color in there. Right, well, that's our property line, so take that color to the edge of our property line, right? Oh, wait a minute, that's the neighbor's property. That's the highlight property, so, okay, make sure that's highlight. No color in here. You know how I feel about color. Get that color out of here. Right? We're white. No, I'm blanched. No. We don't mix with blanched around here. That's what you're painting. And so what we've got to do is we've got to be a little more sophisticated with our non-color. And by the way, I believe this is way brighter than the actual painting, that non-color there. I'm not even adjusting the value here, but let's just see what happens if I work a little bit of this in here now. Even sloppy like I'm doing, right? But do you feel the release immediately? And this is the letting go I speak of. And the letting go is into the cool, because the warm will grab you. Now, it is possible to let go from a stronger warm to a weaker warm. But again, that's more difficult and a little more confusing. So first, just all your let goes make cool. All of your grabs make warm. And now when I'm talking warm, cool like that, I'm talking general color wheel. Right? So again, we're not on a Rembrandt, but now that doesn't feel like we've got prison walls around every neighborhood home. Right? No, we don't talk to our neighbors. We don't, no, we're separate. Don't you go talking to them. Okay, it's more natural where we mingle. The ball goes into their yard. The kids run in the backyard and grab it. Right? We got some of their mail. We take their mail over to them. Let's see. Janie says, the Rembrandt example is so helpful. I've blended. Yes. Perfect. And it's a little bit hard to describe without, again, we've been talking 40 minutes now. Right? Because you also, what you don't want to do on here, oops, look at me, single layer. Layer that stuff up. That way we can show. So again, that's where we were, right? And so you've got to leave some of those, but you can't do it to the extent that the form isn't there. What do I mean? Well, what if we just take the dark, rich nose, put a little bit of that there, put some there, and let's put some of that there, and put some of that there, and put some of that there, and put some of there, and put some of that there. And then let's take our gray, and put some of that there, and put some of that there, and put some of it there, and put some of it there, and put some of it there. And let's take our white, and put some of it here, and put some of it here, and put some of it here, put some of it. Usually most people's interpretation is what I just showed you. But the reason I've slowly told you how to do these things, and now I'm telling you I've told you to do them wrong, was so that you could see that underlying structure that the artist hides. Okay? What Rembrandt has down here is not what I just did. Right? There's a very logical order to it. And what you need to understand is what roles are there and how it's playing. Like this is a highlight, right? And so is this. And so is this. So is this. So is this. So is that. But are they all equal, and does it feel like there's spotty white marks everywhere? How fast can we ruin a Rembrandt? That's not what he's doing. Right? For one thing, they're not all applied the same. They're not the same shape. but they're also not the same intensity or color. And can you see what he's done here? He's taken that white on his brush and then he smashed it into what's underneath. So that not only lightens that color and gives it kind of a highlight, but it merges the two together, right? So it's not a 3,000-mile train trip, right? No, it's just around the corner. All right. So I think that's good. Oh, good. Yeah, so Janie says, so good. She used to blend. Now see what it does. Nice. Okay, great, guys. Great. So let's get back to the chimpanzee here and see. With all of those things then, what might we do? So let's just start around the eye and the hair and do just a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hair and let's just start. And again, for me, this is generally isn't a one-step process. In other words, it's what I'm doing to develop the painting as I go. So, right, I'm going to do it with the skin, and then also, with the fur, with the hair, and then also with the skin. And so what I'm doing now is, again, just paying more attention to the edge or the meeting places. And this is a subtlety about shape. How one shape meets the other shape. So that already to me feels a little bit better. Now, I'm not as familiar with chimpanzees as you are, so I may have some little technical thing off, but that's how you would organize that. Then the color. So let's just go up a notch so we can review this in a minute. Okay, so that's a little bit dark. So let's go over here and grab a lighter. And that's too dark for that spot. So let's go lighter. Now that feels like that would almost be the perfect transition right there, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to knock even just a little more chroma out of that. Let's take the opacity down. So in other words, I'm not putting big pieces of paint down there, but I'm getting that background color on my brush. And then I'm just going to lightly get a little bit of that in there. Okay, can you feel that relief? Then let's go probably up here or even more. Over to this more yellow lighter. Yeah, so let's... And again, notice the subtlety, right? When I put it down, that's way too much. But can you see how that breaks that up? So again, this is a measure thing, but that's what you're looking for right there. Susan or anybody who wants to do skin tone. And these highlights, um, right? How could we really show the difference between that surface and this surface? You know, if you think about that, and that's why in the eye, a lot of times, that highlight in the eye can be a little bit more hard-edged, a little bit more, woo! How about a little bit less? Right, a little bit more with a soft edge, and then, you know, those may be a little bit looser, softer edges. And again, what that does is it helps distinguish these surfaces from that surface. Okay. Oh my, you guys are the best. You come in here all feisty and fired up, and look at this. So now Susan's going to do a Rembrandt chimp. You can do it, Susan. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. All right, guys, let's talk about some horses here. I know I spent a lot of time on that, but that's a big subject that's not necessarily easy to tackle. Not necessarily easy to tackle. But, right, it's the next step. It's what's next. Okay, so let's look at Janny here. Let's look at Janny. Pardon me just a second while I get a little sip of tea. And we'll take a look here. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about here, how are we going to describe this? Is basically the simplicity of form. The simplicity of form. Oh, you're welcome, Susan. Thank you for sharing and turning them in and working on them. I do really appreciate it. So, my goal, what I am after, what we try to offer is to encourage, support, inspire, motivate, and educate you guys, right? And not for a painting, but for your artistic development. Right? We want to do these programs to develop artists. Whether you're a brand new artist, just starting out, not knowing anything, or whether you've been doing this and you're just really trying to up your game. Right? Because we can always up our game. Well, you're not Rembrandt, are you? You're not Aspaveg, are you? All right, you can up your game. You can up your game. That was great for us all. It was good for me too. I'm glad everybody had a good time. All right, how about some horses in a pasture? So, I want to do a little game here. Let's do a little game. Yeah. So I'm so glad you said that, Susan. You know, the caring feel comes through, right? You know, animal people can tell for animal people who are empathetic to these and, you know, love these creatures. I can't give that to you. But if you have that, what I can hope to give you to supplement what you already have is the visual principles to really make that caring and loving, you know, feel and be more, basically more effective, right? A clear communication. Yeah. Look at that forward horse. You walked by that guy and you didn't have anything. You're going to turn back around. You're going to get in your car. You're going to drive 30 miles to the grocery store and buy a bag of carrots so you can come back and just give it to him. Look at those eyes. Look at those eyes. All right. Let's put our feel-goods aside for a minute and put our artist-scientist hat on. And in other words, what I mean is our observation hat. What's happening here? what is really going on? And why don't we do this one in red, just so we separate everything. And what I want to do is I want to see these things as three-dimensional forms. So the bottom of the nose, right? The side of the face, the top plane, right? And this is the head, and then that nose, like there's kind of a top plane or nose or whatever. It still comes up a little bit, right? But this is a minor movement compared to that and that. And what we want to see and show first are these major movements. Okay, then we have the neck. And this is looking towards us. And then over here it's toward the side, because that shows the neck twisting. Right? Do you see that? So that neck, it bends here and stretches on that far side. There's a bend right there, and then it continues to bend around. Right? Why are we talking about this? Why are we talking? Well, we're talking about this because the only way this and this and that and this can be white is if they're on the same plane. Right? Some of what's happening here is we've got a little bit of white on here, we've got a little bit of white on this side, and we've got a little bit of white on this side. And once you've done that, there's nothing you can do to express this form, really, other than lines. But even if you do the lines, these whites are contradicting what the lines are saying. Okay? So the first thing to do in here, and what I would do is either take a picture, or you can do this on whatever, but just sketch over, where is the light coming from? Okay, where is the light coming from? These trees, it looks like the light's coming from here. And, you know, if that's the case, then okay, what are all these going to look like? And if that's the case, this white right here is on the shadow side of the box, right? It's on this side, because the other side of the horse is going to facing the light. This side is facing away from the light. So is this, right? So is this. So that's all facing away, facing away, facing away, facing away, facing away, facing away, facing away. That side's facing away. Does that make sense? Because to me, you've got some beautiful colors and things going on here, but it's like they're not in service of form, if that makes sense. And one way to think about this, I wouldn't recommend, who cares about form, a stupid sphere, but I'm drawing a whole, well, all a horse is very complicated form. I've battled with the light. Yeah. And so that's, the light direction is one of the things that is one of the first decisions we have to make. Right? And then it's because it really does dictate. I mean, if you're vacationing, you've got to decide, right? A driving vacation. Are you going to Canada or are you going to Mexico? Right? Because here in the United States, those are in opposite directions. And so what the light direction tells us is we're going to Canada or we're going to the United States, or are we going out to Europe, or are we going across to Hawaii? Right? And we have to stick with that, because if we change that every time we stop to get gas, we're not going to get very far. We're not going to get very far. Okay, so that would be my suggestion. Now, let's forget about what light you have here and talk about what light makes sense for what you're trying to say. You know, because we've got a couple things going on here. One is we've got horse portraits. But equally, we have horses in nature. And the reason I'm slowing down is sometimes it's hard to see that we haven't settled on a single idea. But we're trying to paint multiple ideas, and so we're making decisions based on two different things, and they're always fighting each other. So if we're to do the horses in nature, what we're going to do is a little less, and when I say less, I'm talking size, a little less of this. And as I do this, maybe you can see it. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to give one stronger than the other one, so let's go. Well, it's going to be impossible to do that, but green. So if the horses are here, in other words, this is the physical space on the canvas that the horses are taking up, right? How much percentage of your home is dedicated to whatever it is? Okay. And then this rest of it is dedicated to nature. Okay, and then when we go back, what you're going to notice is you have some black, you have some white, and there's a little bit of orange, right? So you've got value and color here. And you also have a lot of color here. And so what's happening is they're battling each other. So what if that purple went a bunch grayer? Okay, now instantly those horses are more in focus, right? And what if on this blue we lost a little value and a lot of color? Okay, what if in these trees, quite so dark. So that yellow down underneath the horses, could I gray that off? That white back there, can I quiet that down? Can you see what now instantly we're getting more on the horses, and then if it was about the horses, and where these horses are in light, again you'll have to talk about the light, but if the light was hitting this side, right, and then there'll be a little bit of white there. But anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to attract them back to that spot, right? And one of the things you can do is if this dark in shadow, now I don't know, because with photos and drying out, make sure that's a bit warm. Maybe black with just a touch of cad red, or even that cad or orange if you've got the orange in there. And then make sure that's solid. Now we can give some reflected light and everything on there, but that black, and I can see some of it just needs to be oiled out. Black's really bad about drying out. And then once you have that, and again, part of what's going to happen is this white up here is going to go, so will this, right? And all of that will go down. But if everything is right, then when you do put a little light that's catching there, look how right, that's going to show up. On those edges. Okay. Good. And I like it. All right. I'm hoping that came in recently. Sorry, I had my head down. But I hope that makes sense with some things like that. And then again, if you were ever to start this again, what I might do, or, you know, for next horse painting, I don't foresee this being your last horse painting, you know, decide, is this about these particular horses? And is it about this horse in nature, or is it about a portrait? And if it's about a portrait, then maybe what you want to do is, you know, make this horse like that, and that horse more like this, and this horse, right? And I'm talking horse heads here, because then the horse heads will take up most of the space, right? And then of course you can show the bodies and everything out there, which will squeeze some of that out. And then very tiny, you could indicate some mountains and trees and things like that. Okay. And on the flip side, if it was about the horses in the pasture, then what I might do is push these guys back a little bit and maybe have them 1 horse, 2 horse, 3, you know, however. a little bit more that size, so that they're held by all of this outdoor space. Okay, and then on top of that, you know, you could go a million different directions. You could make them a little smaller and up front, saying that they're friendly and everything, but they live in all of this land. Or you could put them in the middle, you know, go just showing a nice distance back to them and a beautiful scenery behind them. Or you could put them up there and then just have to walk through all of this nature before you get to them. Okay? So again, just some general ideas. I hope it sounds like it sparks some ideas for you to work with. Good, good, good. And Susan, so good. All right. So happy, guys. So look at you guys, how many of you are here? That's unbelievable. So that's a good hour, and I hope you got some good information. I think we'll leave it there. Janie, if you had any last minute questions, or Susan, since I worked on you, feel free. I'll stick around another minute or two to say goodbye if those questions come through. And in the meantime, why don't we boom, 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 sit up straight. Sit up straight. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Looks like somebody needs to do some push-ups or something. All right, I'll get on my push-ups. So, let you guys know what's happening. Anybody that's new around here, this week, 8 a.m., morning jump start, which is what you're seeing right here, student feedback. We see what we can do to help the students get to the next level. But I try to help them in a way that we're talking about principles and that we can all benefit from it. In the evenings, we look at masterworks and see what they're doing, see their patterns, see their values, see their shapes. How are they doing it? So that when we come back to our work each day, we've got better ideas of shapes. We've got more shapes. We've got more colors. We've got more compositions. We've got more everything. All right. Susan's good to go. All right. Go get them, Susan. Shakti. All right. So great. Thank you. No more questions. Lots of info. All right. Well, I think that's permission for me to sign off. I'm going to be in the studio working on our courses. I hope you're in the studio getting done whatever you can with whatever studio time you have. And let's meet again tonight at 8 and tomorrow at 8 a.m. and p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you like what we did, give us a thumbs up. Please make sure to subscribe. And like always, for more information on all of our programs, you can visit jasonmeyer.com. Love to you guys. Go be beautiful. And we'll see you later tonight. Bye-bye.